Hello and welcome to the Everyday Adventure podcast. My name is Nikki Bass and I'm a business psychologist, army veteran and everyday adventurer. I will be sharing my conversations with some truly incredible guests who are weaving adventure into their daily lives. And I really hope that these conversations inspire you to undertake your own everyday adventures too. So today I am super excited to be speaking to the wonderful Jo Bradshaw. And I'm really excited because it's taken us quite a while to get this episode happening. I don't really know why it's taken quite a while. I think just timetabling and probably a bit my crap communications. But anyway, I've wanted to speak to Jo for so long. I think for anybody who is in the sort of outdoor adventure space world, enjoys outdoor activities, Jo's going to be a very familiar face and voice to you. But for those of you who don't know who Jo is, she's a leadership development coach. She's a public speaker. She's an expedition leader. And she specializes in taking people outdoors and challenging their comfort zones and getting to do the things that they never believed were capable of. So just to give you a very small sense of Jo's background, because I'm sure she'll introduce some of that herself, but also, you know, please feel free to go out and research and see some of the incredible things she's done. She completed her first challenge back in 2004 when she cycled 500 kilometers up to Machu Picchu. And her achievements since then they're nothing short of phenomenal. She's completed the 7 peaks, including Everest, and her most recent expedition, I think it's the most recent, but I'm sure Jo will correct me if I'm wrong. She has been involved with a wonderful project which took 15 women of all ages and abilities to climb Yala Peak in Nepal, and has made a beautiful film as a result. So Jo and I, whilst I've been clearly stalking her for very many years, I'm sure she'll be delighted to hear. All my guests love it when I say that. They start getting really awkward and climbing away from the screen. But Jo and I sort of first connected properly when randomly she borrowed my paddleboard. And even though I didn't actually meet her then, and we stayed in touch and have finally met face to face. Sometimes you get this sort of, you know, that famous saying that says never meet your heroes. Well, I have to say in this case, Jo, that absolutely does not stand true in your case. So I'm really delighted to be speaking to you today. And I think just to get started, I would just love to know what sort of, obviously you've got such an incredible track record of all the adventures you've done. But I absolutely loved the concept of your project, More Than a Mountain, and what was behind it. And I wondered if you could just share a bit about what the project involved, your motivation behind it, where the idea came from for that.
Yeah, sure. And hi, Nikki. And wow, what an introduction. I'm quite blown away by all of that. Yeah, I'm so glad we're finally talking as well. So More Than a Mountain is a wonderful film in production at the moment. So we have the film trailer out and it's going down really well. And the film is set around celebrating the 50th anniversary of the first woman to summit Everest. And if I said to a lot of your listeners now, right, name that woman, and this is not a criticism, the majority of people would go, I don't know. You know, that's just, we've all heard of Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay and the team that summited Everest in 1953. Yet 22 years later, when Japanese mountaineer Junko Tabei stood on the summit of Everest on the 16th of May, 1975, few people had heard of her then, and very few people have still heard of her. And she was an incredible individual whose drive is just phenomenal. And 2025 celebrates her 50th anniversary, and it also commemorates the 10th anniversary of the earthquake which struck Nepal. And I was on Everest when the earthquake struck. So it has a specific meaning to me. So there's two. I wanted to put together an expedition that had this dual meaning, and I was doing some research about Junko And she led an expedition to climb a mountain in Nepal, which you've spoken about, called Yala Peak or Yeti Peak. So Yala Peak in the Langtang Valley in Nepal is 5,500-meter mountain. Because I was looking for something more accessible. You know, we could have walked to Everest Base Camp and done that. Lots of people do that. It's very busy. I wanted to find something quieter with more of a challenge, yet was still accessible for the majority of women. And I wanted it to be an all-female expedition because in 1975, Junko was climbing leader for the Japanese women's Everest expedition. So we were kind of mirroring what she was doing, just 3,000 meters lower. And I have to say, it was the most fulfilling expedition I think I've ever led. The majority of the women on it, I was very fortunate, of friends of mine or have been on expedition with me before or know me through social media. So it was all those sort of getting to know you things had already gone. We also had a training weekend, a set-up training weekend in the Brecon Beacons at the very end of January this year. So the majority of the team had met each other as well. So those barriers had sort of gone away, or the sort of, you know, the sort of forming, storming, norming, performing things had settled down, which was good. And yeah, we all flew out to Nepal mid-April of this year and set off up the Langtang Valley. And what I think for me, the reason it was such a special expedition, not only for the women that were on it and for our local crew who were I was working alongside, also we had a common purpose. And it wasn't a set of individual agendas, which you often get when I guide people at high altitude. Clients come on with a reason they're going to climb Mirror Peak, which is to get to the summit. And it's an individual reason for being there, whatever it might be. And sometimes clients forget, actually, we need to work as a team in order for us to reach the summit. We're not here for individual agendas. And on Yala Peak, our common purpose was celebrating Junko's success and the sort of gate she opened for other women in mountaineering, even though there'd been a lot of women before her, again, hidden in history. It's like, how did she leave this legacy of, I was going to say get on and do it, which is too flippant. It's like how she opened up the gates for us to be able to go and do these things. And commemorating the earthquake, and Langtang Valley was destroyed, not Langtang Valley, Langtang Village. I always get a bit emotional when I talk about this because it was such an event. Langtang Village was destroyed in the earthquake. Of 42 tea houses, one remained, and the village was wiped out by a massive avalanche and rock slide. And about 350 or so people lost their lives in that moment on the 25th of April, 2015. And going up that valley, I'd never been to the Langtang Valley before. I'd seen Aftershock on Netflix, which documents 3 different stories of the earthquake. So one on Everest, one in Kathmandu, and then what happened in Langtang Village. So I had some sort of frame of reference. Obviously, I knew about the earthquake because I was there, but I'd never been to Langtang Village before. And wow, what an emotional journey that was. So a lot of the ladies who were on the expedition with me have known me since 2015. So were sort of reliving the experience with me as well. And then, yeah, we went off and followed in Junko's footsteps to the summit of Yala Peak. And of the 13 women summited, including fellow Everest summiter Tori James. So she's the first Welsh woman and still the only Welsh woman to summit Everest, which still blows my mind. So yeah, she contacted me in September last year and said that she was doing a podcast, or is doing a podcast, called First Females, and about the first women in different countries to summit Everest, and could she come along and on the expedition as well? I was like, yes. How amazing is that? And out of all of this has come, it's a very long-winded way of saying we made a film about it, we're making a film about it, celebrating the success and the achievements of Junko Tabei and the legacy she has left. And as one of my ladies said, without Junko, we wouldn't have done any of this. It would have been a very different story. And we have documented the stories of different women on the expedition, talk about my experience of getting to Everest and being in the earthquake, and what Junko has meant to me on my own personal journey and through a leadership perspective. It's been and is quite awesome. I still can't believe it. I'm talking about it. We've made a film.
I mean, honestly, it's just awesome listening to you talk about it. What strikes me as I'm listening to you as well is obviously, you know, it's an immense achievement. And for those women, all 15 of them, huge personal achievement. But as you say, you know, that deeply personal resonance it has and meaning for you, given the context as well. And, you know, I think for many of us, we're probably sort of aware of what happened with the earthquake, or remember something maybe that came up in the news. But I think in and amongst all of the other stuff that goes on the news, and if you don't have a personal connection with it, I suppose those individual stories and those individual lives, and also for the people who were there, you know, that can get lost, or it can get missed, or, you know, things move on at such a pace. And I think, as you say, to be able to sort of do something incredibly positive with it and move the story, I guess, forward, but also to be able to commemorate that, I can tell as I'm listening to you what a deep meaning that holds for you. I guess I'm just wondering, with the film, for you personally, what would you love to come from that? What has it opened up so far, and where would you like it to go in your sort of wildest dreams, I guess? What would be the aims behind it?
My personal legacy that I am really keen for is for more people to know who Junko Tabei was. Sadly, she passed away 9 years ago after from cancer. She was in her mid-70s, and for her name to be out there, to come out of the shadows of history, for people to understand who she is as an individual, who she was an individual. There's a brilliant book written with her by Helen Rolfe and Yumiko Hiraki, who capture the essence of Junko's life. And not only are there so many leadership takeaways, which for us in leadership development is really key, there's also so much in the book about Junko's drive to help others achieve more, because that's what happened to her when she was a young girl. So she grew up in a large family. There was 7 children. The family were quite poorly. The kids were quite poorly, quite often with pneumonia and other chest infections, and the doctor would come and go, which one now? So you wouldn't expect her to then go on and achieve what she did in the world of adventure and mountaineering. And it was when she was 10, she went on a school trip to climb a little mountain called Nasudake. And it was her teacher, Mr. Watanabe, who encouraged her to find a love for the outdoors and for nature, and to just put one foot in front of the other and see how far she got. And it was that, in her words, it was that sparked the interest of, well, maybe I can do this. And she then bucked the trend of culture at that time, and went on to university, went on to hold a job. Her husband, who she met whilst they were mountaineering, was so pro her achieving her dreams, which again, culturally at that time was very rare. He was a brilliant mountaineer himself. So they pushed each other to achieve all the time. And I love the fact that in a culture, or even decades in the sort of 60s and 70s, and it was the same here in the UK, I think, where a woman's role was at home, have children, not work, don't have a career, because your job is to raise the children. And she's like, no, actually, I don't want to do that. That's not for me. I don't want an arranged marriage because I found somebody amazing. Thank you. And that kind of vision in those decades, in the 60s and 70s, I'm like, wow, what a woman. What a woman. And also for her husband, Masanobu, what a man. This is incredible. And for people to have an understanding of what she was like and how much she encouraged other people to take that one step more and to achieve a little bit more than they thought was possible, because I feel it's like our sort of comfort zones. The more you stretch it, the more comfortable it becomes in a bigger zone. And then you stretch it a bit more, and then you've got all this space in between, and you stretch it a bit more. So that's what she was about. She was about encouraging people to sort of think bigger, look bigger, rather than saying no to things. And there's a great quote from her when she was putting together the Everest expedition for 1975. Bearing in mind, back in that day, they had to apply for permits, and they received their permit for 1975 in 1972. It's very different from now. Yeah, there was one team on the mountain at a time, one or two teams on the mountain at the time. So it's so different to modern day Everest mountaineering. And she would, have women say to her, Everest, I'd love to go, but. And she said she found it difficult that people would crush their dreams with the word but. And that so resonates with me, because I used to say it all the time. I was definitely, I'd love to go, but I'd love to do that, but, and my reasons for the but were from fear of pushing myself, or the fear of failure, or actually the fear of success. What does success look like? So the legacy from this film is, if we can encourage men and women, or I'd say women and men, to just take that one step more. I wonder where that would get them. What else could you achieve? Don't be bound by limits of yourself or others. How much can you, achieve if you just put the butts in the bin? Yeah.
I think there's a quote in there somewhere.
Yeah, there is, definitely. I was doing a leadership talk the other day, and I use that quote all the time. And at the end, my question to the audience was, which butt will you have the courage to put in the bin? How can you move forward and get rid of those butts? So, yeah, I used to say, which butt would you kick out of your life?
My kids would find that hysterical.
Yeah. So whichever way you want to, frame it. And I'm not alone in all of the sort of putting up barriers to not do something, because I used to be a sort of very yes no person. I used to say yes to a lot of things, and then I'd turn around and say no, and I'd come up with a reason not to do something, through, as I was saying, through fear of failure, or the fact that it might be a bit hard, and I just had no confidence in myself or my own abilities. And I think that's where Junko, in her early days, she found a champion in Mr. Watanabe, and then in her husband Masanobu, and also in other people around her. She found those champions who said, we've got your back. So not a champion that goes, yeah, I first and I'm winning and woohoo, isn't that great? But somebody who says, I've got your back. How are we going to make this happen? And that for me is what this expedition was all about. I had, a lot of the women on the expedition were like, well, do you think I can do it? It's like, well, the only way to find out is to try. Let's give it a go. Yeah. So that's, in a nutshell, the legacy for me is for more people to understand who Junko is and what she's about, and also is you're seeing this group of women from ages 29 to 71. We had two 70-year-olds on the expedition. Most of us were sort of around my age, sort of mid-50s, some 60s. So sort of more mature ladies, and I definitely put myself in that bracket of just sort of going out there and taking the competition out of everything and just going and having a good time. And when it gets tough, we're there to give each other a bit of a hug and a pep talk, and off we go. So yeah.
Amazing. I mean, there's so much I could pick up on what you just said, I think, and I think will resonate with so many people listening to this, because I think it's like you said, that point about the confidence in order to be able to say yes. I think there's an assumption that if you just say yes to everything, but there's a whole layer of stuff that comes before that. But I really love your point about having people in your corner, or people who maybe believe it more than you do, because I think often, whether it's adventure or even, outdoor activities or any sort of activity, anything in life really, it tends to be treated as a very individual pursuit. Like if you've got the individual motivation, you'll make it happen, and it's all down to you. And you're either disciplined enough or you're not. And I love what you're saying about, all those cultural layers really that Junko had to face, and that still permeates. Even though I'm pretty sure that 1975 is not 50 years ago. I'd just like to make that point. Regular listeners will know I have a particularly personal stake in that.
Yes.
But yep. The reality that so much has changed, and also, in a ways, a lot of things haven't changed. And certainly, whether it's in the UK or places around the world, that sort of fight and that sort of striving for any form of equity and equality continues. So I think it's that sense of who around you can also support, enable, that it is fundamentally all of this is a team activity, whether it is a team getting you up a hill, or whether it is a team enabling you to to go for the promotion at work, or whatever it is. That we can only get so far on our own, and I love that collective aspect about what you're doing. I was just wondering about your own personal, I mean, it sounds terrible to say this, your own personal but yeah. I think there can also be, when someone's very experienced in a particular field as you are, there can be an assumption that to go out and make a film like this, or to go and do a challenge like this, well, actually, you just have to decide to do it. You get your people together and off you go. And I'm making an assumption that probably wasn't the case, that actually behind the scenes, there are so many reasons why not to do something, but also that make this more complicated and difficult and challenging. As you said, that's where the purpose comes in. But I was just wondering, some of the challenges that you faced in getting to the point at which we're having this conversation and have made the film, what were they? And I guess, what was it that helped you to overcome those too?
I think because even before this group were formed, my original idea for this expedition was to replicate one that I did 10 years ago when we went to climb Everest. So I put together a team of 6 Duke of Edinburgh students. So that was the expedition to trek to Everest Base Camp and then to climb a 6,000-meter mountain called Lobuche East was their residential. And quite a residential it was too. And my sponsor for Everest at the time paid for half their costs. The students fundraised the other half of their expedition costs, and they also raised some money for the charity that I was and still am supporting, children's mental health charity Place to Be. And without that company's help, I wouldn't have been on Everest, and I wouldn't have been able to take those students. And I wanted to replicate that expedition to Yala Peak to celebrate Junko Tabei, and I wanted to make it an all-female expedition. And I put it out there in the world 2 years ago, and of 6 places available, I had 2 applicants. So that was a fail straight away. So I was thinking about, well, why did it fail? Probably many reasons, but the main 2 reasons is, who is Junko Tabei and where is Yala Peak? Never heard of it. How am I, why would I want to go on an expedition to a place I don't know, celebrating somebody I've never heard of? If I'd put the expedition to trek to Everest Base Camp, I probably would have had an awful lot of applicants, because it's an iconic thing to do. And I wanted to be a bit more like Junko, and I don't want to sort of go down the sort of regular route. Let's just make it a bit more difficult, which I tend to do in my life. Love a challenge. And I set up the expedition with some friends of mine who run an expedition company called Adventurous You, who are based in North Wales. And I said to them, well, this hasn't worked. We've done all the work behind the expedition. We know it can run. Let's make it a commercial expedition and still all female. And Sue and Jim were like, yeah, let's give it a go. Because I give them ideas and say, can we do this? And they'll say yes to it, because they love a bit of a challenge as well. And we make it, between us, we make it work. When I then put it out to, I just put it on social media saying, this is now going to be an all-female expedition. We have X amount of places. And I had a lot of interest, and a lot of women went, I'd love to go, but, it's like when you say, oh, can anyone come out with me on Friday night? And you get loads of replies, rather than just saying no, which is really simple. Like, I'd love to go, but I'm doing something else. Well. But in this instance, it wasn't who is Junko Tabei or, where is Yala Peak? It's like, well, the mountain is a little bit technical on the upper edges of summit day. It's 2 weeks out of the UK. Some hadn't been up to that altitude. The fitness aspect is always, am I going to be fit enough? So that, again, there's this sort of natural process of, can I, should I, would I? So some people ruled themselves out straight away. And as much as I am here to champion others, they need to know that it's the right fit for them, so that they've made the choice to be there, rather than thinking, oh, Joe said I can do it, therefore Joe's going to get me to the top, therefore, blah, blah, Joe this, Joe that. It's like, no, absolutely not. You need to say yes to an expedition, even if you know you're going to make it or not, because you want to be there, not because I said you can do it. That's the really important thing. And I think that, with the women that we had, was a factor for being there. And we had the right team at the right time, and it was just amazing. And I think the film trailer, I've had comments that the film trailer really shows that. It's the way that women chat and speak to each other and encourage each other. There was no competition of, I want to be at the front or I have to be the fastest, which you can get in all female teams, in mixed teams, in all male teams. And I think, excuse me, the big difference, as I do get asked this, I think I'm going a bit off piece here, but I do get asked this of, isn't leading an all-female team a nightmare? I'm like, well, I'm a woman and I don't think I'm a nightmare. Some people may disagree. And I say, well, the difference is to do with hormones, and it's not about crazy women hormones and men are really steady. It's between estrogen and testosterone. This is my very basic view on this. So men, testosterone, in history, the hunters, the gatherers, the fighters, the ones that need to be fitter, that need to be in front, that all kind of comes into an expedition. Whereas women are, with estrogen, the nurturers, the ones that are there to help other people, who are looking to support growth. And that's what we had. We had 15 amazing women, or 14 amazing women who were there to support each other. And we had set that intention to begin with. And they absolutely ran with it. And our support team, our Nepali team, were all men. And I would love to have known what they were thinking before we turned up. Oh, God, is this going to be a nightmare? They blooming loved it. We just worked as one team. And that's what I always encourage when we're on expedition anyway. We worked as one team. I relied on Kumba, our Sirdar, our head guide, as much as he relied on me. So we worked really well together, as well as all the assistant guides and the porters. It was an amazing atmosphere to be around, and even though we didn't see many trekkers along the way, they did comment of, God, we want to be with you. So I was like, yay, that's the ultimate. When we left tea houses, the tea house owners were like, wow, come back, and that was, and I'm not saying this out of arrogance or sort of cockiness. It's like, that's just how it was. Yeah, it was amazing. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I was asked when we were doing some pre-filming, Sam and Loz from Wild Valley Media, who are doing all the filming, they asked me before we went, if it's a real coaching question, this, if we have a coffee when you're back 3 weeks later, what would you tell me about the expedition? I said, I don't want to answer that question because I don't want it to be over. And I still feel like that. And I think this film has elongated my I don't want it to be over. I'm still living it and I love it.
Still can't answer the question.
No.
Like, no.
Exactly. Don't want to answer the question. And also what this film, well, not the film, but the expedition, and you will see that in the film, is that we have women with very different stories, very personal stories, from cancer survivors, working through grief, low self-esteem, all sorts of reasons for being there. Is the friendship that this one expedition has sort of adopted. That's the wrong word. Garnered. I don't know what the word is. It's menopause brain for you. It created the friendships out of it. So, there's the team are meeting up regularly. There's various expeditions going on where team members are joining together and going on other Adventurous You expeditions. The film is being premiered at Kendal Mountain Festival.
That's what I was going to ask. Where can we go and watch it? Yay! And I've just booked my tickets to go and see it. Yay! So, brilliant. Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, so Kendal have very brilliantly gifted us the opening night of Kendal Mountain Festival. So Thursday the 20th, we have a session between 7:30 and 11 o'clock in the evening to celebrate Junko Tabei, to celebrate women in mountaineering, and we will be premiering the film during that session. And I'm so excited.
Oh, that's incredible. Oh,
I don't think my heart rate's come down at all this yeah.
So what I love is the fact that you said, I don't think I can answer that question. I don't want to answer that question, 3 weeks. And what I was just thinking was actually the expedition hasn't ended in the end.
No.
From everything you've said is that, and I think it's really important just to reflect on that, because often when I speak to people, it's there's a sense of, the thing, whether it's an expedition or an adventure or whatever it is that they set out to achieve, there is a sense that the adventure is all about the achievement of that thing. And I know myself that often when you do something like that, not that do something like you've done, because clearly I've not done that, but like even if I do like a 5K race, running
Mm,
race or something like that, where you've gone, I've built up to this thing
mm,
and now it's over and now what's next? Or,
yeah.
that there's a sort of a dip of the sense of that's complete.
Mm,
Um, and I guess what I'm getting from you is this sense of actually, in a way, this is just the start,
yeah.
whether it's the start for you in terms of all of these other amazing things that have come out of the expedition and with the film and where that goes, but also those connections that the people on the expedition have made, those friendships and what they've then gone on to do as well. So actually
Yeah.
it's not complete, it's a catalyst
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
for where else they take this within their lives. And I think that's not necessarily recognized enough, that
Mm,
that adventures or that experiences are just the very smallest stop. I mean, smallest, that was a big mountain,
yeah.
but the start point of something that is about how the perspective you get and how you live your life with that.
Yeah, definitely. And so often we do this series of tick boxes. Oh, I want to go and do this, and I want to go and do this, and I want to go and do this, and it's tick, tick, tick. And then, oh, what's next? And I said to my team at the briefing, uh, before we left Kathmandu, is I don't I would encourage you and invite you to live in the moment of this, because even though we were away for 2 weeks, the actual expedition, boots on the ground, was 7 days. And those 7 days will fly by. And if I'm being asked what's happening tomorrow, it's not, you're not enjoying or you're not living the now. And tomorrow will come. We know that. It's what's happening now. Live in the now, live in the moment. And as corny as it sounds, you will then gain so much more out of it because you're present. And the present we can give to each of the people in our team is being present. Unfortunately, we didn't have much phone signal up there and there was only a little bit of Wi-Fi. So we were probably more present than you would have been in the Khumbu Valley going to Everest Base Camp where there's Wi-Fi everywhere. And people in tea houses just sit looking at their phones thinking what else is going on in the world rather than thinking, oh my God, how fortunate we are to be here. So, and they absolutely lived in the moment. And even when we came back, it wasn't what's next. It's like, what's happening now? Because the film at the time, we didn't realize it was going to be quite what it is turning out to be. Before the expedition, we were like, oh, we'll film it on our iPhones and we'll put something together and won't that be lovely? And it's turned out to be something much bigger than that. And wow, what a joy it is. So yeah, very, very much in the now. And so I'm doing a race next weekend, and my trainer, triathlon trainer, says, that's not the end of what you're doing. It's part of the journey. And it's more experience for what you choose to go and do after that. It's not what's next. It's what I choose. Even if I choose to not do any more triathlon, what I've learned in that process will help me in everyday life in what I go and do after that. So I think for coming away from Yala Peak, not everyone reached the summit, two didn't, and it's how we can support them with their own personal disappointment when the rest of us are like, hey, we did it. And summit day was really tough for many reasons. And I say, particularly on the way up to summit or the briefings before, it's like wherever your personal summit is, be really proud of that because you are here and you're giving it a go. And rather than sitting at home going, I wish I had done that, you chose to put your butt in the bin and you sort of took the courage to come and be here. And yeah, celebrate that. Because I've been on mountains where I haven't reached the summit, and it is disappointing in a way that that's kind of what you were reaching for. Is if that's all you concentrate on, you miss out on everything else. Everything else. So you don't celebrate all the other things. And actually, what you're doing every moment of every day will get you to wherever your summit is. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I think, you know, it's such, and it's just a mindset shift. It's a
Yeah.
shift of perspective, isn't it? What is the goal? What's the objective? And what can I control and what can't I control?
Yeah.
So much of my work comes back to that is, you know, what are the things that actually on the day are just not going to go in your favor no matter
Yeah.
what you do. So actually what can you set yourself that absolutely. And I think again to that point of what we value and what actually matters in terms of how we progress in a through journey in our lives rather than a sort of stop start is this sense
Yeah.
of every experience we have is not defined by being good or bad or pass or fail, but a collective of these experiences that add to our sense of, you know, what we're capable of, where we want to go to next, what we enjoy, what gives us, what fills us up, what, you know, energizes and motivates us. And,
Yeah.
you know, and that's going to look different for everybody at very different stages of our lives as well. I mean, I was just wondering, you probably just answered it, to be honest, but I'm going to ask you anyway, because I have to ask you, because I ask all my guests, and you may
Yeah.
well have another, which I know you will, you'll have another pearl of wisdom to share. But if somebody's listening to this and they think, well, you know, either I would love to try some huge challenge and I don't know whether I'm capable of this, or I love this idea of just thinking about my life in a more adventurous frame, in a sense of, you know, which butts can I choose to ignore or kick away. And if they're listening and thinking, you know, what one piece of advice would you give them to get started?
Um, ooh. I would say get involved in a group of people who are already doing it. Or get involved with a group of people who are already doing it. So I've recently become quite hooked on triathlon. And 18 months ago or 20 months ago, I put off going to my first session at Salisbury Tri Club because I thought they were all going to be racing snakes and all going to be really experienced, and then there was going to be me. And yes, I've done big things and, you know, had success in the mountains. Triathlon was brand new to me, and I've just come out or sort of heading towards the lighter side of menopause, thank God. And I was not in a good place physically or mentally. And I took the courage to walk out of my door one day and go down to the pool where they were having a training session and just get in the pool and see how it went. And it took so much courage. And after it, I was like, why didn't I do this before? This was not as bad. So anxiety is the anticipation of an event. And I made myself, so I built up so much anxiety over this. And actually, when I got, because I can swim, I mean, not, you know, 18 months ago, not as well as I can now, but actually, that was not as bad as I was expecting. And now I'm going off to Germany next week to, I would say, compete in big bunny ears in a half Ironman. And I've done 3 middle distance triathlons over the last few months to get to this place. And I'm quite terrified and really excited as well. And it's how I want my energy. Where do I want my energy to go? Either in anxiety or actually excitement. And I'm definitely erring on excitement. And I'm still terrified, but I'm excited.
You can have
terrified.
both, that's fine.
And I have joined the most wonderful group of people who are, yes, there's a lot of them who are way more experienced than me in that field. And they've given me advice, they've lent me kit, they've taken me out on bike rides, they've told me when I'm doing things maybe not as efficiently as I could be. I have a triathlon coach, which sounds sort of really big and everything. She's actually my dog's breeder, and she does it for a living. She's not breeding. She does, she's a coach for a living. And we connected through something else. And by being around people who are better at you than you are, will encourage you to get better at it. And you become that person who encourages others. And that was exactly my journey through mountaineering. I've been on expeditions, personal expeditions in my early days, and still do, where I'm not as experienced as some of the people in the team, not when I'm guiding, but when I'm climbing personally. And so I now want to learn as much as I can from them. I'm like, well, you're not in competition with me here. I would like to get up to your standards. So how am I going to do it? So, if somebody wants to go and do something, whether it's joining a walking group or joining an art group or something, it's very corny to say, it's the hardest start is just making that first step. It's going and opening the door to the community hall where all these people are chatting and you're thinking, oh my God, I can't do this. But as soon as you start chatting to somebody, you're not the new person anymore. So it's that kind of thing. So go and join a group of people who love it already, and they will be like, brilliant. New bloods.
Absolutely. And people love to share their experience as well. I mean, I think this is it. And it's giving them a gift.
Yes,
it's like, absolutely. Here I'm the person, I know absolutely nothing. You can tell it all to me and I will be open ears. Oh, I absolutely love that advice, Jo. I think, as you were talking, I was just thinking about, I've done a lot of that over the last 3 years because we moved somewhere new, and I've spoken about this ad nauseum on this podcast. So people are probably, oh, yeah, we know you joined a netball club. I'm still terrible, by the way, 3 years on. But I think what resonates so much with me is that thing of that fear never goes away. Yeah. That sick feeling in your stomach that, oh God, I'm going to completely humiliate myself. And I don't know what I'm doing here, and everyone's going to be brilliant, and I don't even know which way up I'm supposed to use whatever it is I'm doing, and it doesn't matter what it is, and sometimes it actually doesn't even matter whether you're good at something or not. Yeah. I think when you it's a sort of a social experience, it's a social anxiety of I'm going to be found out or I'm going to be rejected, and I think if we can learn to sit alongside that feeling, knowing it is 100% natural, it is part of who we are as human beings, because the safest place to be is in a group, not on the outside of it. That actually it doesn't need to be the thing that stops us. And so much good comes from, like you said, learning from other people and being the inexperienced person in the group, but also just trying that thing with a group of people cheering you on alongside. Yeah.
And it's really interesting because I've also changed the narrative or my self-talk. So I was out with a friend from the Tri Club who is slower than me, and we were going out together, and I said, well, this may challenge you a bit because we'll ride probably a bit quicker than she's used to over the distance we were doing. I said, challenge is good. And then last week I was out with one of the Tri Club friends who is faster than me. So the roles had reversed. And I could have kept saying to him, oh, I'm really sorry, I'm so slow, I'm really sorry this. And I said to him, when we get to a hill, you go and do your own pace. You don't need to look after me. You go, I'll meet you at the top. And when I got to the top, I said, rather than saying, oh, I'm really sorry, I'm slow, I said, thank you for waiting. And he's like, oh, that's fine, because it gave me a rest.
Yeah, and people are normally relieved.
That mindset from I'm really sorry to thank you for waiting, because it gifts that other person the knowledge that they're still helping you. And back before I did the first bike challenge in 2004, in 2003 I did a parachute jump for charity, and I was terrified of heights and was saying earlier, I was very much a no, or said yes to a lot of things and then said no. And a friend of mine called Caroline said to me before the jump, she said, well, I'm going to take you to the jump site just in case you can't drive home. I was like, oh God, I'm not sure that I'd like the sound of this. And so she came with me, and I wouldn't have gone if she hadn't have done that. I would have come up with an excuse, oh yeah, today I would love to have done that, but I had a migraine or what have you. And I questioned it because I kind of didn't quite believe it. In my now more mature years, I didn't quite believe that that was the reason. So I said, Caroline, what was the reason? And she said, look, we all knew you were more capable. We all knew you weren't really living a life that was fulfilling. You just needed to quit the excuses and try. And I was like, oh, gosh, but so true, and so true. Kick the butt out of my language as well. Harsh and so true, because I was defining my own success by my own limitations. And I have achieved so much more than I ever thought was possible in my life. Partly because so many people have said to me, well, you can't do that. You won't be able to do that. And that's more from their own fears of not being able to do it themselves. And now I'm like, oh, what else can I do?
Yeah, that's the downside. I have to be honest with this mindset. Like, should just want to sit down with a cup of tea, honestly. Yeah.
And making a film, I know nothing about making a film. So we have Sam-in-laws who are filmmakers doing the film, and Sam-in-laws will ring me up and say, oh, we need this and we need that, and what do you think about this and that? And we have a whole team behind this. It's not just me and them. It's Sue from Adventurous You, it's Tori James, it's Jenny Hall, who's associate professor at York St John University, it's Rebecca Stevens, the first British woman to summit Everest. All these amazing people are around this film and supporting it, and all of the funders who have so very generously put in their own money to help this film happen. And there's so many times we could have gone, oh yeah, well, that's another no, so we're going to stop. So no, we're going to carry on. It's every no is another log to chuck on the fire of determination. I was asked, well, what happens if the funding doesn't come through? It has to come through. We go into Kendal. This film has to be made. We need to make it happen. The no's are just fueling our fire to get it done.
And now it is. Wow.
Yeah, now it is. Yeah.
Now it is.
Yeah, and we're still raising funds for it. And probably will be right until the time it's shown at Kendal. That's cool. Fundraising is really hard no matter what you do. And you will always get more no's than yeses. And when you get a yes, wow, what a win that is.
Amazing.
£5-10 or more on the Just Giving page. It's like another person, has the means to be able to support us financially. Brilliant. Thank you very much. And we're also, very lucky to have people who are distributing it elsewhere. If they can't financially support us, I absolutely respect that. Share it out and see what else.
Fabulous. Jo, I mean, honestly, I could keep going with this conversation for probably another hour. I think I've overrun my usual slot by about half an hour. So I think I'm probably going to have to draw it to a close. But obviously, like I said, or you said, this is just the start of this journey as well. I mean, if people are listening and want to know more about you, want to know more about the film, want to go to Kendal and watch it, where can they go?
So I have a website, jobradshaw.co.uk, and there's a page on about my climbs and the 7 summits and Everest, and there's also a page called More Than a Mountain, and on there's a link through to the Just Giving page. There's also obviously a link to watch the film trailer, which is a whole minute and a half, so it's impactful in a short amount of time. If you're interested in coming along to the event at Kendal Mountain Festival, and I will now put a link on my website, you need to sign up for the Kendal Mountain Festival newsletter. In that will then take you on to how to book tickets, or it's all on the Kendal Mountain Festival website. Yeah, really exciting. It's it's our next Everest.
If you want to find out more about Jo, please do go check out her website. We'll pop her social media links, her website, everything will all be in the show notes. So please do go and check her out. If you happen to be in Kendal in November, obviously would love to see you at Jo's screening as well. Jo, thank you so much. That's been absolutely incredible. But wish you all the very best of luck with the film and also with your half Ironman next week, which is incredible in itself. And I'm so glad we finally managed to have this conversation. So
it's been wonderful. I've really enjoyed it. Brilliant.
Amazing. And yeah, look forward to catching up and see how it all goes soon as well. We'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
So first of all, an enormous thank you to Jo for joining me. I'm so thrilled we finally got the chance to have our conversation. And at such a prescient point, because at the point at which this goes out, we will be a week before Kendal Mountain Festival and the debut of her film. So I'm really thrilled to be able to support that too, and very excited to be watching it. And again, as with all the conversations, there are so many different touch points within that resonated deeply. I think the one I wanted to come back to, because it's something that we've not touched on for a while, but I think that so many people I talk to experience constantly. And it's this idea we have of ourselves, of what success and achievement looks like, this sort of almost externalized perspective of what if somebody else was judging us or appraising us, they would consider us where we would be considered to sit in that category. And I think there's nothing more confronting with that than, as Jo talks about, when you're climbing a mountain and if you don't make it to the summit, then the perception that is a failure of some description. And I love what Jo said about actually, when we flip that and go, actually the success was in the end. Before that, might have been signing up for the trip, the outcome that isn't something that is not in our control a lot of the time, particularly if we're taking on a challenge, doing something that we've never done before, or even I know in the case of many people who've experienced in whatever sport that may be or whatever adventure, that there are times in which we cannot control the environment, we cannot control our own capabilities, we experience the environment differently at different stages in our lives, depending on what else is going on. There are so many variables that are not within our gift to control. And yet, if something doesn't go according to the plan that we had in our mind, our default is to see it as an intrinsic failure rather than attributing it to other factors and variables. Well, that's not to say that we can't take personal responsibility for doing all the things that are required of us in terms of our preparation or in terms of, putting ourselves in the best possible position. But I think it is about a lens through which we view ourselves that can often be terribly harshly judgmental, that sets us impossibly high standards in all aspects of our lives. And that when we may fail, in inverted commas, to reach those impossible high standards at every given moment, that somehow it's because we as individuals are lacking rather than because there are other factors inherent in that, or because maybe that wasn't the right path or the right direction or what we needed in that moment. And I always feel that there is so much we gain when we are able to go, no, actually, this isn't what's working for me right now. And that in itself is a good decision. It is an important decision and it is a safe decision as well. But it can also be a brave decision, particularly when we're in a situation where we are part of a group and we are seeing other people achieve things around us too. But I think I just wanted to go back as a sort of a reminder that if you find yourself in that headspace of the shoulds, of the expectations, of the anticipation that we should be able to think our way out of, no matter what challenge, or dig in and grit our teeth through, no matter what situation is thrown our way. But actually, that's not always the right response. That's not always the best response for who we are, and that we can be proud of alternative decisions we take too, and be proud of listening to our own needs. But actually, there is something very precious in accounting for what it is that we uniquely need in a given moment. So I guess depending on where you're listening to this and what is going on in your life, if that is a helpful reminder, I would love for you to carry it forward. As always, please do let me know what you think. I am always delighted to hear from people who listen to these podcasts and to get your thoughts and ideas. And if you have guest suggestions, that's also always hugely appreciated. And you can find me in a number of places. You can find me on Substack, which is the Everyday Adventure podcast's new home as of the beginning of season 8. So you can go and comment directly on any of the podcasts or any of the episodes that you've listened to and share your thoughts there. You can get in touch with me via Instagram, Everyday Adventure Pod, or Resilience at Work. You can contact me via my website, resiliencework.co.uk, or you can find me on LinkedIn at Nikki Bass. So please do get in touch as always. I have so many more wonderful guests and conversations that I'm looking forward to sharing with you as part of this season. If you're at Kendal next week and you want to come and say hi, I would love to meet you. Or if you already know me, please do let me know. I'm very terrible at telling people in advance of what I'm doing. So yeah, please do get in touch, and I'd love to catch up over a coffee too. But in the meantime, take care, and I will speak to you again very soon. Bye.